Imagine this. A phone rings in a cavern carved deep beneath the Welsh mountains. The year is 2019. On the other end, a voice is strained. Britain's energy grid operator is calling, and it's not a courtesy call. A catastrophic power outage has just struck, plunging swaths of the UK into darkness. Trains screech to a halt. Hospitals flicker onto backup power. Tens of millions face the specter of a blackout that could paralyze a nation. But in that instant, the operators of the Dinorwig hydropower station spring into action. Within seconds, a deluge of water is unleashed inside a vast, echoing hall. Giant turbines roar to life, and almost instantly a surge of electricity pulses out to the grid. The crisis abates, at least for now. Less than an hour later, power is restored for nearly 1 million people. Few realize how narrowly the country avoided disaster, and even fewer have ever heard of Dinorwig or the technology that saved the day. So here's the question. Can these hidden giants, the UK's immense water batteries, really bail us out as we bet everything on renewables? Or are we placing too much trust in century-old technology at the dawn of a new, volatile energy era? To answer this, let's dive into the story of pumped hydro storage, a marvel of engineering, a backbone of grid stability, and now the focus of a billion-pound gamble that could shape Britain's energy future for decades. First, a crash course. What exactly is pumped hydro storage, and why does it matter so much right now? To most people, electricity is as simple as flipping a switch. But behind every lamp, screen, and kettle is a delicate balancing act. The UK's national grid needs to match supply and demand every second of every day. Too little power, and we risk outages. Too much, and critical infrastructure can overload. For over a century, engineers have wrestled with this challenge. The initial spark came in the 19th century, when pioneering hydroelectric projects tapped the raw force of falling water. Picture the Cragside Manor House in Northumberland, where engineers in 1878 installed a Siemens generator powered by a 100-meter vertical drop, illuminating the stately rooms with the first electric bulbs in Britain. That basic principle, converting the gravitational force of water into electricity, remains unchanged. But in the age of gigawatts and nationwide grids, it needed supersizing. Enter pumped hydro storage, PHS. The concept: when electricity is abundant and cheap, use it to pump water uphill from a lower reservoir to a higher one, storing energy as potential. When demand spikes, or supply falters, as it did in 2019, release that water in a controlled torrent back down, spinning turbines to generate electricity in seconds. It's like charging and discharging a colossal rechargeable battery, but built from concrete, steel, and entire landscapes. Britain was quick to embrace this idea. The Festiniog plant opened in 1963, leveraging the natural geography at the edge of the Snowdonia National Park. 2 decades later, Dinorwig blasted its way into the mountainside, becoming the largest and fastest-acting pumped storage station in Europe. Locally, it's called Mynyd Gwaithfru, the electric mountain. Dinorwig alone, with 6 turbines weighing 500 tons each, is capable of pouring 86,000 gallons per second down a 500-meter shaft, generating enough power to supply nearly 2 million homes, within just 75 seconds of receiving the call. Why was this investment made? The answer is complex, but at its core, reliability and control. Traditional fossil fuel plants, coal, oil, gas, can be adjusted, but often need advance notice or time to ramp up. Nuclear is notoriously inflexible, but wind and solar, they're clean but unpredictable. What happens when the wind dies or the clouds linger for days? Pumped hydro is the grid's insurance policy. It smooths out wild swings, storing excess wind and solar energy and releasing it precisely when the nation needs it most, like in 2019, when those turbines in Dinorwig essentially kept Britain's grid from total collapse. And now, as the UK sprints towards a net zero target by 2050, the stakes are even higher. The grid is rapidly phasing out fossil fuels. Renewable energy generation, especially wind, is surging faster than ever. But this transformation comes with volatility built in. Dr. Keith Bell, a professor at the University of Strathclyde and one of Britain's premier grid experts, puts it bluntly. Long-duration storage provided by pumped hydro is essential for ensuring grid resilience with high levels of variable renewable generation. The numbers bear this out. By some estimates, pumped hydro accounts for the majority of grid-scale storage capacity worldwide. In the UK context, the levelized cost of storage is as low as $75 per megawatt hour, much lower than most other large-scale options. In Scotland, A government report suggests that PHS projects could create up to 15,000 jobs, revitalizing post-industrial communities. And Britain is not just resting on its laurels. Across the country, old mining tunnels are being eyed for conversion into underground hydropower reservoirs. At Cruachan, deep beneath another Scottish mountain, an existing pumped hydro project is receiving $600 million to expand its capacity by 600 megawatts by 2030. The EU has even labeled PHS as pivotal for achieving climate targets. Perhaps most intriguing, researchers at Bangor University are now optimizing the operations of these massive plants in real time, squeezing ever more flexibility and value out of every drop moved up or down. It all sounds like a green dream come true. So why is the system under threat? And why, even now, are there such high stakes and such intense debate about the future of Britain's water batteries? Let's pull back the curtain. It turns out, building and running a pumped storage facility isn't as easy or as risk-free as it seems. For starters, the upfront investment is staggering. Dinorwig and its sister plant, Festiniog, are entering a decade-long $1 billion refurbishment just to keep running for another 25 years. That's a third of what it would cost to build a new plant, but still a massive sum, with no guarantees of payback if the regulatory or market landscape shifts. Investors are wary. Why pour hundreds of millions or even billions into concrete, steel, and subterranean tunnels when battery technologies are plummeting in price? Without supportive policies, investors might walk away, and projects could stall for years. John Clipsham from Renewable UK explains, "The cap and floor mechanism is a welcome step towards unlocking investment in pumped hydro storage. Britain's government has responded, offering a safety net to de-risk these investments, but critics say it's not enough." There are also environmental concerns. Building a dam or hollowing out a mountain can have long-term impacts on ecosystems and landscapes. New advances like closed-loop systems and fish-friendly turbine tech promise to minimize harm, but not all are convinced this is enough. Doug Parr of Greenpeace UK cautions, while pumped hydro can be part of the solution, it's crucial to minimize environmental impacts and prioritize truly sustainable energy storage options. Then, there's the complexity of the evolving power grid itself. Even as wind and solar expand, they don't always align with peaks in demand. A University of Edinburgh study reveals that increased PHS capacity could slash wind energy curtailment by up to 30%, pointing to the massive potential for cost savings and emissions reductions. But only if the grid, storage, and renewables work in sync. But the most persistent challenge? The paradox of scale. For pumped hydro to make a real dent in the UK's transition, Britain needs not just a few upgrades, but a wave of massive, long-duration storage projects, each requiring years of planning, careful site selection, and vast resources. All while competing technologies, like advanced lithium-ion batteries and alternative forms of storage, are racing to maturity and undercutting costs. So, what happens if this gamble doesn't pay off? Could Britain's grid become more fragile as the country leans harder on renewables? And as the government pledges a green future, who will take the risk, public or private investors? Will the billion-pound refurbishment of Dinorwig and Festiniog pay off, or will it become a relic of a bygone pre-battery age? Right now, operators, engineers, and policymakers are grappling with these questions. As one industry leader, Audrey Gallagher of Scottish Renewables, puts it, pumped hydro is a proven technology that can play a key role in meeting Scotland's net zero targets and creating green jobs. But the clock is ticking, and the grid's next crisis may be only a phone call away. So as Dinorwig's turbines prepare for another 25 years of service, Britain faces a crossroads. Is this billion-pound investment a masterstroke of foresight, or a misstep as new technologies beckon? And crucially, how will pumped hydro and its rivals reshape not just the energy system, but the very economic and technological map of the UK? So, after decades in the shadows, pumped hydro is back in the spotlight, and the stakes have never been higher. With Dinorwig and Festiniog undergoing a billion-pound makeover, the UK is staking its grid stability, climate ambitions, and energy bill future on technology that traces its roots to Victorian country houses and 20th century ingenuity. But as renewables surge and pressure mounts to decarbonize, one question echoes across boardrooms and government benches. Are these mighty water batteries still up for the job? Or are we about to pour billions into a legacy system on the verge of redundancy? The truth? The answer is as dynamic as the grid itself. Let's peer into the near future, the 2030s and beyond. The energy landscape is changing at a blistering pace. Wind and solar are racing ahead, sometimes meeting half the nation's needs, but their very success exposes the grid's Achilles heel. What do we do when the wind stops or the sun sets, or both, at the same time? This isn't theory. In recent years, grid operators have on multiple occasions paid wind farms to switch off, curtailment, because there was no way to store their excess power for later. According to a University of Edinburgh study, with more pumped hydro, the UK could cut these wasted wind megawatts by a third. But pumped hydro isn't the only game in town. Over the last decade, a new breed of competitors has emerged: batteries, hydrogen, even so-called gravity storage, using massive concrete blocks. Lithium-ion battery costs have nosedived, and they can be built quickly, almost anywhere. Critics point out that a gigawatt-hour of pumped hydro storage takes years, if not decades, to develop and faces environmental pushback every step of the way. Dinorwig and Dinorwig are lucky. They were built in a different era, and modern upgrades don't have to fight for new sites. So what's the risk? There are several. First, the classic cost. The billion-pound overhaul of Dinorwig and Dinorwig is massive, yet, according to Mia Paolucci of Engie, it's still much cheaper than building new. The levelized cost of storage for pumped hydro, says one recent analysis, can hit as low as $75 per megawatt hour, putting it on par or better than many battery projects, if you factor in the system's 40-plus year lifespan. But if battery prices keep plunging, could new storage projects leapfrog hydro before the investment pays off? Then, there's the policy risk. The UK's new cap and floor regulatory scheme tries to give investors peace of mind, a guaranteed minimum revenue stream if market prices crash. But the fine print matters. If government support wobbles, projects could stall or investors may turn away. Britain needs at least 4 times more long-duration storage to hit its net zero target, but nearly 15 gigawatts worth of pumped hydro proposals are waiting, binoculars in hand, for policymakers to signal, go. And finally, there are environmental and social factors. While upgrades to existing plants like Dinorwig can sidestep the biggest challenges, building new pumped hydro stations, or massively expanding old ones, can mean flooding valleys, rerouting rivers, or digging new tunnels. Local opposition and wildlife concerns are real, even with fish-friendly turbines and closed-loop systems that recycle water. But here's the intrigue. Pumped hydro is also evolving. The next wave of projects could look nothing like the Dinorwig of the 80s. Engineers are turning abandoned mines into underground storage. Closed-loop systems that don't touch natural rivers are gaining traction. Real-time optimization means these stations can squeeze every last electron of value from volatile, renewables-heavy grids. And there are unexpected benefits. According to a Scottish government report, pumped hydro expansion could generate nearly 15,000 green-collar jobs, revitalizing rural economies and rekindling engineering capability. New investments like the $600 million Cruachan expansion in Scotland aren't just about electrons. They're about people, local communities, and the promise of green prosperity. Yet no system lasts forever in isolation. The future almost certainly belongs to a mix: pumped hydro, batteries, hydrogen, and maybe technologies we haven't yet imagined. Many experts see pumped hydro not as an outdated relic, but as the backbone of an energy storage portfolio, offering something no battery bank can yet deliver: truly massive, long duration, rapid response power for days on end, with a lifespan stretching half a century or more. Dr. Keith Bell at the University of Strathclyde puts it simply: long-duration storage provided by pumped hydro is essential for ensuring grid resilience with high levels of variable renewable generation. Or as Ronnie Quinn of Drax, operator of the expanding Cruachan station, argues, our Cruachan expansion will provide critical flexibility to the UK power system and support the growth of renewable energy. Still, vision and reality don't always align. Imagine a world not far from today. Wind and solar farms can power millions of homes, but an unexpected calm or cloudy spell hits. If we haven't built enough storage, if policy dithers or technology bets go wrong, the UK could once again find itself teetering on the edge of a blackout, dialing Dinorwig or Cruachan in the dead of night and hoping these giants of engineering are still standing strong. So what lessons can viewers like you take from this? First, energy infrastructure shapes every aspect of society, whether we notice it or not. The stability of our lights, trains, hospitals, the very pulse of our economy, all rely on systems designed and built decades ago, now facing pressures they were never designed for. Understanding how storage works and why certain choices are made helps us ask smarter questions of policymakers and energy companies. Second, the clean energy transition isn't just about building new wind turbines or solar panels. It's about connecting, balancing, and storing that power, so it's always there when we need it. The water batteries of pumped hydro are unsung heroes, but they need sustained investment, bold policy, and crucially, public understanding and support to fulfill their promise. Third, innovation is on our side. The rebirth of pumped hydro brings job creation, some 15,000 jobs, many in areas hit hardest by deindustrialization. There are opportunities for students and young engineers to work on world-class projects, from optimizing existing stations with AI to designing the next generation of storage from the ground up. If you're passionate about climate, engineering, or just want to keep your energy bills down, the pumped hydro story matters. So what does the future actually look like? In all likelihood, pumped hydro will remain a keystone, if not the sole pillar, of the UK's green, reliable grid. Not alone, but working symbiotically with batteries, demand response, and smarter management. As of now, batteries lead in speed and modularity, but for sheer, brute force, long-duration security, water in the hills is still hard to beat. And with new investment, even legacy plants like Dinorwig are set to become fitter, cleaner, and more efficient than ever. To answer our opening question, is the billion-pound pumped hydro bet a wise insurance policy or an expensive gamble? If policymakers, investors, and the public don't lose their nerve and innovation continues, then pumped hydro is no white elephant. Instead, it's the silent guardian under the mountain, always ready, a literal deep reserve for Britain's energy future. But a word of warning, if we rest on the old ways and fail to balance innovation with tradition, the lights may not go out, but our grid could buckle just when we need it most. It's a call for urgency and vision. And here's a secret fact you might not know. Dinorwig isn't just a marvel of engineering, it's also a global training ground. Every year, grid operators and engineers come from as far as Japan, the US, and Australia to study how this Welsh powerhouse choreographs the delicate dance of electrons that keep an entire nation humming. In other words, what happens at Dinorwig doesn't just shape Britain's future, it sets the template for the world. So next time you flick a switch, remember, there's a race above and below ground, a battle of technology and policy, all to keep those electrons dancing in perfect time. If you want a say in tomorrow's grid, whether as a voter, an engineer, or a curious citizen, start by asking, where does your power really come from, and who's storing it for you? If you enjoyed this journey beneath the mountain, smash that like button, subscribe for more stories on the future of energy, and let us know in the comments. Would you trust your grid to water batteries, or do you think new tech should take over? Until